Good morning, folks. How are you this morning? Ron Bishop here from Timaru, New Zealand. Some of you now will know that I'm a motivator and a promoter and a bit of a troublemaker sometimes. But I'm here to help people. And today is Sunday. Sunday is the 5th of January 2014. And every Sunday I give a Sunday sermon. I'm a Christian and I have been for a number of years. And so this is my payment, if you like, to God for saving me from committing suicide, because I very nearly committed suicide. And I was talking to a friend of mine the other day and he said, "Ron, we need you in Timaru." And I said, "What for?" He said, "Because Timaru has the highest, second highest in New Zealand rate of suicides for teenagers." And I didn't know that. So today I thought I'd talk about suicide, because I've had experience of wanting to commit suicide. Every morning when I do my sermons and talk about stuff, I talk about myself, because I don't know anything about you and I don't know your situation. And all I know is my experiences of life. I'll be 73 in the 15th of January, and I've been around a bit, and I've had a lot of bad experiences and I've had a lot of good experiences. And so whenever I'm talking to you online, I'm talking about myself. I'm not here to skite or anything like that, or want self-pity or anything like that. I'm simply here to share my life story with other people. You see, I want to be a professional motivational coach. I want to teach people self-development skills. And I've listened to many people who have done that over the years. And they all talk about themselves. They talk about their own experiences. And I love to listen to those. You can listen to them on YouTube now. YouTube is a wonderful thing. Every day I'll go onto YouTube and I'll listen to some positive stuff. And I'll listen to people telling their success stories, how they were a failure, how they couldn't pay their bills, all sorts of things. And they changed their life through the power of their thoughts, by changing their thoughts. And so today's sermon is about changing thoughts, and it's about the three most deadliest fears we can have in life. The fear of the very fear of fear itself, and depression, and all this. I want to talk about this morning. Let's have a look at these words in closer detail. Behind me here is a chart. I've used this chart in all my seminars. When I was motivational coaching, I used this chart. And this morning there's 9 different feelings and emotions in the human body. We have 9 different kinds of feelings and emotions. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those are negative, and only 3 are positive. This morning we're going to look at the bottom 3. Fear, grief, and depression. What is fear? It's doubt, scared, worry, panic. We all have that fear. We all have built into us fear. And fear is caused by grief, where we get hurt, we feel guilty, we lose something, loss, or pity. That's a negative emotion. Grief is a negative emotion, but God gave us that emotion for a reason. Down at the bottom we have depression. What is depression? It's apathy, being stuck, can't, lazy, right? They are the 3 most deadliest fears. Fear itself, grief, and depression. Right, let's talk about fear. Do you worry at all? Do you ever worry about stuff? Can't sleep at night? thinking over and over in your mind all the bad things that are going to happen that haven't happened yet? Do you worry? Do you have doubt? Do you have doubt in your mind that you may not be able to succeed? You may not be worthy of praise? Do you have that? Do you ever get scared? Really scared? Huh? We do. We all do. Do you ever get scared of success? Afraid to succeed? A lot of people do that. Afraid of success. And what about being afraid of failure? Fear we might fail, may not be able to do it. I've been studying personal self-development for many years. And it all talks about goal setting. We must have goals. We must tell people, we must set goals for ourselves. And some people say, well, when you set a goal, you don't tell anybody what your goal is. You keep it a secret. The other way is to tell everybody what your goal is. Now, Muhammad Ali did that. He said he was the greatest boxer of all time because, before he ever was, he decided to tell the world that he was the greatest. And he became the greatest. But he wasn't afraid. He had no fear of losing. He had no fear. There was no doubt in his mind that he was going to be the greatest. Every day I say to myself, I am the greatest and funniest motivational preacher and teacher in the world. I am the greatest and funniest motivational teacher and preacher in the world. Now that's not true, is it? I'm not the funniest. I'm not the greatest. Or am I? How do you know that? You don't have to know that. I have to know that. I have to believe that I'm the greatest and funniest motivational teacher and preacher in the world. Right? And I do that affirmation every day. And I share it with the world. Because I have no fear of failure. I have no fear that I won't be able to do it. I have to overcome my fear. I tell my wife we're going to be multi-millionaires. My wife and I are going to travel the world speaking to millions of people on motivation. Uplifting people, inspiring people, encouraging people. My wife doesn't believe that. She said, a lot of old rubbish, Ron. You're a dreamer. Yes, I'm a dreamer. But I'm following the rules. This is what all the books say. This is what all the motivational teachers tell us. That you got to have a goal. You got to tell the world what you want to do, what you want to be. You've got to be positive. You've got to be a positive thinker. Let's have a look at some other words. I've experienced grief on many occasions. Let's take a look at this word, grief. We've all experienced grief. When we lose someone dies, someone close to us dies, we experience grief. Loss. And we feel hurt. We feel sometimes people tell us off, or we lose a court case, or something happens, and we get hurt, right? And we grieve. We grieve. It's a natural feeling and emotion. God gave us the ability to cry. We can cry when we lose somebody. We cry when we feel guilty. We feel loss. And we feel pity, right? And it's a terrible negative word, grief, but God gave it to us for a reason. Just like He gave us fear for a reason. If we didn't have fear in our life, many more people would jump off cliffs, right? So God's given us fear as a positive as well as a negative. He's also given us grief, allow us to grieve. You all know, some of you may know that I shot my brother when he was 16, when he was just 11 years of age and I was 16, and we were having rifle practice outside the house where we lived in the North Island on a sheep station. And my little brother, 11-year-old brother, accidentally ran in front of my, I was aiming for a target, tin on a post. I put a tin on a post and I was practicing with a .22 rifle, then I pulled the trigger and my little brother ran out from behind me in front of the line of fire, and I shot him through the head and killed him. And that was terrible grief. I experienced terrible grief in my life at that time when that happened. And I felt guilty. I carried the guilt around me for many years. And I was hurt. And I didn't want to tell anybody that I shot my brother. It had to be a big secret. Mum and Dad tried to keep it secret. No one was supposed to know that happened. The policeman came out and said it was an accident. But it wasn't really an accident. It was me being irresponsible with a gun. I should never have been shooting outside the house with a .22 rifle. And it was my own fault, and I felt guilty and grief. And later on in life, I had a mental breakdown. I very nearly took my own life because I'd carried this burden around with me, and I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody that I shot my brother. And later on, I had a mental breakdown. It just got too much for me, right? And I very nearly took my own life. I very nearly committed suicide. I wanted to commit suicide, but I called out to God. And when I called out to God, He saved me. He got me out of that bed. He got me up and He took me down to a psychiatrist. And I said to the psychiatrist, what's happened to me? I'm full of fear and I'm full of guilt, and what can I do? And he diagnosed me with an illness called bipolar disorder. It's where you can get very depressed and you can get very high, go highs and lows. And I was given this label, you see, and I've had to carry this label of bipolar disorder around with me for all my life. Just a minute. Now let's look at this word depression. That's on the bottom of my chart. Depression. What a terrible thing depression is. What is depression? Apathy. You couldn't care less. You've had enough. You don't want to keep going. You feel stuck. You can't do it. And you get lazy. You're depressed. Life doesn't seem like worth living. When I lay in my bed that time, I called Margaret in, my wife, and said, Margaret, I'm stuck. I can't do it. I can't carry on. I want to take my life. I wanted to commit suicide. But someone told me to call out to God. Ask God into my life. So I did. I said, God, if you're real, come and help me. And He did. He came and helped me. He gave me the strength. He gave me the courage to get out of bed and face life again. Get back on the horse. I fell off the horse. Get back on the horse, He said. Get back into life. And then a number of years later, I hired a lady to work for me, and she turned out to be dishonest, and I had to sack her. And the laws in New Zealand say you can't sack anybody. If you're in business, you just can't sack people. You have to do all sorts of things first, even if they're dishonest. If you go to the police won't do anything about an employee that's been dishonest. They just ignore you. They ignored me. I couldn't find a solicitor to represent me. She took a personal grievance claim against me for hurting her feelings. You can sue in this country for hurting people's feelings, right? You can sue if your ancestors had their feelings hurt. We've got a race of people called the Maoris, and they're going to court with the government all the time. They're asking for money because their ancestors were griefed. They felt grief. They were hard done by. Somebody come and pinched the land. The government pinched their land, they reckon, off them. Land that they never owned in the first place. They took it off someone else. And I was angry when all this happened. I got very bitter, okay, and I got depressed. And at the end of the court case, I waited 12 months for the judge to make a decision when this woman took me to court. And I got the letter in the mail, and it said I'd lost. That I had to pay this lady over $35,000 for being dishonest, for ripping me off. I was depressed, very, very depressed. I got out a bit of paper and I wrote a suicide note, and I gave it to my doctor. I wanted to commit suicide. I'd worked hard all my life. I'd saved my money. And here was a law in New Zealand that said I had to put all my retirement savings, give it to a woman who'd ripped me off. And a system that ripped me off. Lawyers that have ripped me off. Police officers that have ripped me off. Judge that ripped me off. I went to the court. And this lady stood up in court and said Ron Bishop has bipolar disorder. And they put it in the newspaper the next day that Ron Bishop has bipolar disorder. Here I was, trying to get back on my feet, trying to be a successful businessman in the town. And here was a newspaper saying that I had a mental illness. I was depressed. I wanted to take my own life, but I didn't. You see, I called out to Jesus and I said, God, I don't know why you're doing this. Why? No one will deal with me. I used to go around my clients and they didn't want anything to do with me because they read in the paper that I had a mental illness. When you have a mental illness, no one comes to see you in hospital. If you go into hospital with a mental illness, no one comes to see you. If you've got a broken leg, oh yeah, they'll come to see you. But not when you've got a mental illness. Everybody runs the other way. And I'm sharing this not because I want pity. I've got over it now. I became a Christian. I gave my heart to a man called Jesus. And I did it by saying to Jesus, I'm sorry for all this stuff I've done. All this bad stuff. All the people that have done bad to me, I forgive them. I forgive the police officers. I forgive the lady that put it across me, my employee. I forgive the lawyers. They were all doing their job. They were all trying to struggle with a law in New Zealand that's crooked. It shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be a law in New Zealand that you can't sack people. You can't. If you hire someone and pay them to do a job, and if they're not doing the job, you should be able to get rid of them and not have to pay thousands of dollars for hurting their feelings if you give them the sack. It's wrong. It's the system that's wrong. I've forgiven all the people. They won. They got the money. The lawyers got all the money. The woman I sacked, she never got much. Never got any. It all went on lawyers' bills. $40,000 worth of lawyers' bills, and I paid her $35,000 of them, dollars worth of it. Yeah, I was angry. Yes, I was angry, very angry, and I was very bitter. But when it came out in the paper that I had bipolar disorder, I thought, right, I got two things I can do. Admit it or deny it. So I admitted it. I said, yeah, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I don't know whether it's right or not. Just recently, not so long ago, a couple of years ago now, I don't know how long it is ago, I took an x-ray of my brain. And the psychiatrist said I had early stages of Alzheimer's disease. Not only did I have bipolar disorder, but I had early stages of Alzheimer's disease, and I would lose my memory, and I would get dementia, and I'd finish up as a vegetable in a home, not being able to wipe my bum. Now that news is pretty hard to take. First of all, another illness that I got was prostate cancer. My doctor told me I had prostate cancer. But I beat it. I went to the hospital in Christchurch, I went to St George's Hospital, and I got 38 or 39 treatments or something of radiation. And I cured myself of prostate cancer. But on top of this, I was diagnosed again of having mental illness called bipolar disorder. And then I was told that my brain was shrinking and I'd finish up in a old people's home, a rest home, not being able to wipe my bum or remember who you are. So I had every reason to be depressed, didn't I? And what saved me was Jesus. I called out to Jesus, said, "What are you doing to me, Jesus?" And you know what he told me? He said, "Ron, I'm giving you an experience. I want you to go out into the world and I want you to tell people about your experiences. There are other people out there suffering like I suffered. There are other people out there that have killed a relation or killed a friend accidentally. There are other people that have been through court cases and lost. And through the system, a system that's wrong, a system that is crooked. Lots of people have wanted to commit suicide. If my message of salvation can help one person, I will have, the reason for me becoming to this world will have been done. I will have made a difference. If one person today, if one person listening to this video will get down on their knees and say sorry to God for all the stuffing it up, for all the bad things you've done, and apologise to God and to those people that you've hurt, and the people that have hurt you, forgive them to God. Say to God, I forgive them. I forgive all those lawyers. I forgive my employee. I forgive everybody for the stuff they've done to me. Just say, Jesus, I want to turn my life around. I want to become a Christian. I want to get Satan out of my heart and put Jesus in his place. Because there is a God and there is a devil. You can't have God. God is good, God is love, and the devil is hate, and God hates the devil, and the devil hates God. And there's a spiritual warfare going on, and you have to be on the side of God. You have to ask the man Jesus to come into your heart. Not him physically, but his spirit. Ask his spirit to come into your heart. Kick Satan out of there. Because it's Satan that's giving you the fear. It's giving you the grief, giving you the depression. It's Satan. And you have to get Satan out. And you get Satan out by inviting Jesus to come into your life. As I sit here giving this Sunday sermon, I look out the window and it's raining. Now this morning at 10:30, I was going to be going down to the Caroline Bay and I was going to be videoing the children's races, this carnival, Caroline Bay Carnival going on at the moment, and this morning there's children's races, running races, and I was going down to video it. It's raining, so that'll be cancelled. Those little kids won't be having their video taken. One of the things I find when I'm going around videoing young kids, some of the parents get upset. They don't want their children to be videoed. They don't want their child to be on YouTube. If I take a video, it goes on YouTube. It's public. And some parents get real upset. They don't want anybody to know who their child is. They don't want to see them in the lights. And I've had a little boy come up to me and said, "Look, I want to be on YouTube. Please take my video, take a photo of me and put me on YouTube." And then mum or dad says, "No, you can't do that. You're not allowed. You're not allowed to be out the front." See, the parents have the fear. The little child is not afraid, but the parents are full of fear. "Ooh, something might happen to my little boy or my little girl. Someone might come and rape my little daughter." How the hell can they do that? Just because they're seeing a face on YouTube. It's fear. You've got to kick fear out of your life. It's fear that are holding you back. It's not holding me back because I got rid of it. Because I got Jesus on my side. And you have to get Jesus on your side. You can't do it on your own. So will you do that for me? Will you do that for me? Will you ask Jesus to come into your life? Just say sorry. I want to finish with a little story about my mother. I had a wonderful mother. She was a lovely lady, and she was very caring. She had the same spiritual gift of me, which is the gift of mercy. She died of cancer, but before she died, she used to go around all the old people in the town that she lived. She lived in Mount Maunganui in the North Island, and she would go knocking on doors and talk to all the elderly people, and she'd read them the newspaper, or go down the shop and give them some milk or something, or what they wanted. She was a very loving, caring lady. And when she died, she died of cancer, and she was lying in the hospital, in the Tauranga hospital, and I went to see her. And Mum was a big lady, big, heavy built lady, and when I saw her lying there, she was thin, really thin. The cancer had eaten into her stomach, and she was just wasting away. And I said to Mum, "Please tell me about your family. I know nothing about your family. Who was my Uncle Kit, and who's Auntie Ethel, and all these people, and what happened to your sister, and what was your father's name? Where did he go to school?" I was asking Mum all these questions because I wanted to know, because Mum was dying. And Mum said, "Ronnie, I've been trying to tell you these things all my life, but you never listen." With that, she closed her eyes and died. Don't let your mother die before you say sorry to her. Don't let your mother die. Don't let your parents die before you know all about your history, your family history. Ask questions. Get as much information about your history, your family history as possible. I've got to go now. I hope you've enjoyed this sermon. I'll put it up online. You'll be able to buy a copy of it, because I'm doing DVDs. I'm doing everything I do, every video I do a DVD, and you can buy a DVD of me. I'll be doing a video on those shortly. If you want a video if you want a DVD, one of these DVDs of this sermon, I'll do it for you, okay? And I'll tell you about that later. But we've got to go now, and God bless you, and don't forget, say sorry to Jesus, ask Jesus into your life, and your life will change, and every day will be a winner, okay? Bye-bye, love you all.